And it really started in 1985 when I first heard about INROADS as a high school senior, where Michael T. Holmes came to visit our school. Our guidance counselor pulled out a few select students to come into the office and to hear about this organization. It was the inaugural year of the Fairfield Westchester County's affiliate. And I heard about it, and I was totally into doing it. I was very much excited about it. And as it turns out, I couldn't apply that year because of, as I was entering college, there was a number of college orientations and training and classes that I had to take the entire summer. So the summer of 85 did not happen for me. And so, however, as soon as the school year started, my first year in college at Bard College, I heard from Michael again, and he said, "Listen, now that you're a freshman in college, are you still interested?" And I said, "Very much so." So I started the process, and just to kind of jump ahead, my first summer as an INROADS intern was in the summer of 1986, interning at AT&T. I graduated in 1990 and went on to work at GE Capital, what was then GE Capital, the financial services arm of General Electric at the time. 2 years in the information systems management program. And then, long story short, I joined INROADS on staff. And there's more to that story, but I joined the INROADS staff in 1992 as a staff associate and worked my way. And I've been jokingly referred to as having had just about every role in the organization at some point. So I am an intern, alumni, and staff and former staff person. And I worked with one interruption. I left INROADS staff in 2019 after many years, as you can do the math, over 25 years of just one interruption, a year and a half. But my association with INROADS now is still alumnus, excuse me. Fundamentally, the idea of INROADS has always been about providing access, providing the tools, providing the coaching to a young person who would otherwise not have had it. Primary underserved population, Black, Latinos, Native Americans, where it started out, is broadened since then. And so there is a fundamental commitment to the student, to the young person, and that comes from Father Frank Carr, our founder's vision. And so over time, obviously, there's the sponsors, and so it wasn't about just give a young person an opportunity. It was about, listen, you are giving a young person an opportunity, but you're making an investment in your corporate future. Mm-hmm. And so Michael did help message that. He greatly contributed to that messaging, to what I would characterize as professionalizing, if you will. Mm-hmm. That and truth be told, at the time, companies have always sponsored interns, if you will, but those that sponsored us knew that they were getting something different. Mm-hmm. And that different they were getting a very prepared young person with the soft skills that lead to success in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you how profoundly impactful this was. I mean, we're talking about young people. I'll speak for myself. My father worked in a factory, General Motors assembly line. My mother worked in the healthcare industry at different levels, administrative mostly. But, neither my mother had 2 years of college, my father had none. Okay, I'm first college generation. And I came from a very diverse background as far as community, African-American community I lived in, Latinos and African-American friends and others. Went to a school where I was the minority, so to speak, the underrepresented, probably the only Latino kid in the class, although I had a mix of friends outside of the class. So it was a broad experience, but if it wasn't for INROADS and what we were learned about the most mundane things about how to dress for success, but also presentation skills and understanding the interviewing skills and also navigating workplace and communication, all those things, throwing us into an internship would have been at best it would have been a mediocre experience, a mediocre performance. But INROADS coaching, mentoring, and the in-classroom training prepared us to hit the ground running, to be effective, and to contribute, not just effective, but really have an impact in the workplace, and in ways that without it, it would have taken longer. It would have just taken longer. And quite frankly, in some of these environments, we may have never had the chance to grow to our potential because of the lack of tools that we would have been faced with. There's so many unwritten rules in any workplace, in any environment. And I think part of what INROADS offer to the young people is the awareness, first and foremost, of those unwritten rules, but also the interpretation, the tools to be successful in those environments and to contribute above, to their potential. Let me just say that, to their potential. I think that's a really important part because there's a lot of potential that's unrealized. And with INROADS, it really works on providing the tools, the coaching, the support to reach that potential. And the corporations that sponsored the students, they had a dual interest. I'm not going to deny the fact that there's a vested interest in them in being able to diversify their workforce and also attract talented people, first and foremost, talented people. But I'm not going to deny also that they're the genuine allyship that they demonstrated. I always loved their reaction after an annual awards banquet. Even, the skeptics, not skeptics, but maybe not sure what this is all about, but hey, it's helping young people out. Why not? And at the end, they walk away like, wow, this is more than I thought. This is bigger than I thought. I got to find another way to help more. I got to find another way. And, the other thing too is that I love mentioning, and I give Michael credit for this language, so I'll say that, INROADS is also about building bridges across cultures, across communities, and that's something that as an intern, I experienced. Some of my mentors Michael's not the only one that I met 30 plus years ago that I still stay in touch with. There's other mentors that were corporate sponsors that I stayed in touch with to this day. We still talk regularly, friends. But INROADS was about building bridges across cultures and communities. And so whoever was, whether you were an intern, a candidate, or a corporate sponsor, or just someone volunteering, which were many, many over the years and continue to do so, they wanted to be an ally. I said, all right, Rick, come into the fold. There's plenty of work to be done. There's still plenty of work to be done. And we can use your help. And this is how. And there's any number of ways. So we were sometimes people felt a little bit shy. So, well, I'm not a person of color and I'm not sure how helpful, but we build bridges across cultures and communities. Your desire to engage and contribute to the solution is all that we need right now. I mean, INROADS always had a community service component. We follow the philosophy that to whom much is given, much is expected. I used to tell, as I was a managing director, well, I coached interns for a while directly. I had several leadership roles in the organization that had me in direct contact with students. I was managing director at one point of the upstate New York affiliate. That was the New York INROADS upstate New York, based in Syracuse, New York. That was my first managing director responsibility. I left INROADS, came back, and then I was managing director of the Fairfield Westchester County affiliate, the one where I started as an intern. And then when they restructured INROADS to regions, I was the first regional director of INROADS New England region. And so throughout all this time, I had staff and direct responsibility for students, but I also reminded them, listen, the opportunity you have today, I remind the students, as hardworking as you are, as smart as you are, you didn't earn it. The ones that came before you earned it. Every class of intern that came before you who took the commitment seriously, who learned what they needed to learn, who worked to the best of their ability, and so on, they created your opportunity. And how you perform and how you do the best that you're capable of doing now will determine if the next generation will benefit from your work and therefore have an opportunity. So it was clearly, and this is not original to me, we all had this philosophy in INROADS that every class was building the opportunities for the next generation.
Mhm.
And we took that very seriously. And I think sometimes maybe too passionately, but it is what it is, I suppose. INROADS has always been, in my experience, obviously, it's been focused on being a multicultural organization. And the truth is that the experience hasn't always been feeling equally treated.
Mhm.
And this is some of my peers feeling that way. We always felt like the smaller group, the minority within the minority, I dare say. But part of what we've always done is that, okay, there is more that, in spite of our differences from our cultural backgrounds, there's more that unites us than makes a difference. And in INROADS, me personally, I've always found it to be a very positive experience. I never felt that I was less than, so to speak. I think that what's better, let me say it this way, that I think is more accurate to say. I had a full INROADS experience where I felt like I belonged in the group.
Mhm.
And over the course of history, as an intern, as an alum, as a staff person, the staff always felt like, listen, we had a mix of staff. Some were Latinos, a lot were African American or Black. Others were non-minorities, non-people of color throughout the organization. And that's good. That's a good thing. And then we also had Native American staff members as well in certain parts of the country. Where they felt inadequate as far as being able to reach out to us, they encouraged us to build our community to support within it. There was always that feeling that, listen, if it's not enough, let us know what we could do more of. And over the course of history, you can have people who felt not enough, just right. But my experience and some of my peers felt like, okay, it's not enough, but we do feel the liberty and the inclusion to do more. And contribute to that. And so it's a complicated answer because it's a nuanced answer, because it really deserves that kind of nuance. I think INROADS was always aware of the periodic lack of off balance, meaning not as inclusive as it felt it needed to be. And it took effort from time to time to correct that. And I think at the end of the day, me personally, I feel that, you know what, in the aggregate, there was effort of inclusiveness, and there was genuine comfort and desire to do more. And it's an interesting perspective. Now, the other side of it as well is, and I bring back my comment from earlier about my very diverse background, is that helped me even acclimate faster to INROADS itself, because of my various background, where I was always in one community or another. But one of the things I always felt that through friends and certainly my mentorship is that I felt always a genuine kinship within INROADS with all these different groups that were part of it and different experiences. And that, again, that is what most people felt. I think even students who ended up leaving INROADS for what they perceived to be better opportunities. And I remember distinctly one call that I got from a former student, not an alum. She didn't finish INROADS, but she participated. She goes, Marcos, I went to such and such organization. It's good. It's a great opportunity, but INROADS is family. And that's precisely what people, that, whether it was intentional or not, we wanted to have that sense of inclusion that, yeah, if it felt like family to you, then we're hitting the right note. Yeah, I always remembered, I was in the early classes of Fairfield, Westchester County, so it was relatively small, less than 100 interns, I believe, in those first early years, obviously. What I loved is the National INROADS Intern Training Institute. It was held at the University of Kansas in the middle of the summer. And at the time, INROADS had about 3,000 or so INROADS interns across the country. And they were all brought together to this event for training, for presentations, some fun activities and community service. And, it was a memorable moment for so many reasons. We felt like it was on the cusp of INROADS even growing bigger. where even our affiliate, the Fairfield Westchester County affiliate, was still very cozy, small, but it was probably a turning point where we were growing to the point where, it became a lot more people. So a lot more effort to know each other and maintain that sense of community in a larger group. It was hot. I love talking to alumni peers of mine I always love bringing up, did you make it to Kansas that year? And it was in 1987. I said, oh my, and the first reaction, my God, was it hot? It was hot. And, I'm from Yonkers, New York. It gets hot here, but but still, it was a memorable week, a memorable long weekend. Actually, it was about, if I recall correctly, less than a week, but it was extended. But it was great, and it was learning. It was camaraderie. And it really created this sense of bond across all the organization, not just that we were just this one city or one affiliate. The other memorable is the opportunity to really make a difference on young people's lives. There isn't this one, but every year around March or April, I get a call, I get an email, I get when I was in the office a check in the mail saying, "Listen, INROADS made such an impact on my life." Usually from people who've been out for like 2 years, and I understood that because as an alum, you graduate, you run into your first job, and you're just at it. And 2 years into my alumni status, I just had this aha moment that up until that point, I was living in what I didn't realize was the INROADS bubble. I was surrounded by like-minded individuals, success-oriented, very engaged, positive, confident, but supportive. So that became normalized. I mean, it literally became a bubble for us, so that when we left and we entered the workforce and began engaging, we realized how different of an environment it was. Not a bad one, just different. And so everybody has that aha moment. It's like, wow, I'm now starting to see all those workshops and all that coaching, all that mentoring that, at the time you probably felt it was a lot. You realize how it just kicks in ways that you never anticipated, because in order to be able to appreciate it, you need experience. But but how can you get the experience before you get the training? And so, so for me, it's the bonds that I made. One of my closest friends to this day, I met the first workshop as an INROADS intern. His name is Angel Rodriguez. I never would have met him. He was a kid from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was from Yonkers. No way we would have crossed paths. We went to different colleges, worked at different companies, but lifelong friends. I was in his wedding. He was in my wedding. And to this day, we drop a note and just stay in touch and talk about each other's families and how's life. But I think also the people that I work with, really help me appreciate how committed they are, how professional they were, how much fun they were. The people that I led, because over time I was able to lead people, I learned a lot from that. I learned how to be a better person, a better manager, a better leader, thanks to them. And it takes away, even to this day, all those experiences. I learned things that I now, with a little bit more maturity, I probably would have handled much differently. But I can honestly say that I've had great managers in my experience at INROADS, and great people who work for me and with me. And one more person I would add. I did have the honor of meeting Father Frank Carr twice in my tenure. The first time as an intern at that National Student Training Institute, I met him, and I met him also as a staff person in my early years. And as far as the leadership at INROADS, I always found him to be genuinely committed. But Frank Carr in particular, I found him to, all the stories about him were true. He had this very calm demeanor, encouraging, engaging, quiet demeanor, but persistent, and had a way. It was described to me, and I definitely saw it, that he can get people to do things, helping and contributing and all that, in ways that they probably didn't expect to. He had a way to just get people to listen and commit. And we saw it. We reaped the benefits of that that power of persuasion, if you will, and his commitment to humanity, quite frankly. We're now in the year where most corporations, and there's a lot of organizations, and they're doing what typically they think that INROADS does. And I think, and even INROADS has evolved into do other things. And at one point, INROADS was heavily recruiting out of high school, and then because of the market demands, we ended up just kind of picking more senior students already in college, and now they're reverting back to creating high school programs around the country to engage them at a young age. The reality is, and I do recruiting now for my full-time employer. INROADS is still needed. Whether other organizations are doing it well or not, that's irrelevant. There's enough work and enough need for INROADS. And I think this is the misconception right now that there's a lot of opportunities. There's you can teach yourself stuff on the YouTube, you can do any sort of thing, but there's nothing like the mentoring and coaching that INROADS can provide that it really can't be replaced. And so I definitely would challenge anyone listening today to, is INROADS still relevant? Yes. I see it every day. I see young people who are not prepared. I see young people who are struggling to reach their potential. And I see young people who still don't know what's out there. And so that alone tells you, okay, there's knowledge to be shared, there's mentoring to be done, there's opportunities to be extended, and there's continued safe space that we need to help young people to really become the potential that they're capable of. And, if not the recent years, social uprisings haven't emphasized that, there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of opportunity to do that.